Welcome to Three Skulls Tavern, a channel devoted to tabletop role-playing games by Free League Publishing. This show is sponsored by WorldMill, online server hosting for the Foundry Virtual Tabletop. To support the show, head over to patreon.com/MattK. For a minimum of $2 per month, you get access to a ton of extra content. Hi, and welcome back to episode 8 of my Forbidden Lands solo campaign here on Three Skulls Tavern. I'm Matt, your host, and we're picking up where we left off in episode 7. There was a Q&A that was done last week, so if you want to watch that, there'll be a link in the description below. But basically, one of the big things I've decided is to retcon slightly what I had come up with at the end of episode 7, which was Udo being effectively coup de grace. I spent a fate point to make it so that he didn't die, and then I had the bear wandering off and leaving him with a critical injury on the ground. There's a lot of commentary in YouTube in the comments on the end of how that episode ended, and two people came up with a similar idea that has really captured me, and I'm going to be retconning the end of episode 7 to make this happen. And effectively what they're suggesting is, rather than the bear kind of like killing Udo, effectively leaving Udo for dead and then wandering off to chase after the other two goblins, is that the bear is going to pick Udo up in its mouth and carry Udo away. And that's what I'm going to do. And the bear is going to carry Udo back the way it came. It came from the north, so that's the way it's going to head. So back over into Foundry, we can see the battle map as we left it last time. The bear, instead of heading off to the south, where it was over Udo, we're going to pick Udo up, we're going to stack him with the bear like that. And the bear is going to retrace its footsteps. So it's going to go this way, it's going to go around the kind of the campsite, and then it's going to kind of go off into the trees over here. And the one thing I haven't done is I wanted to come up with the critical injury that Udo has. And for this, with the spend of the fate points, I'm not going to roll on the critical injury table. I'm going to cherry pick one. And having looked at the critical injury table already, the one I've decided on, we're going to flash the critical table up here, a screenshot from the PDF, so you can kind of see the list of slash injuries. And from the slash wounds listed, I am going to choose the punctured lung. There's a few reasons for that. The ones that are a bit more lethal, lower down on the table, are all difficult to explain how Udo would have survived with them, because this bear is going to be carrying Udo away for a period of time. And I kind of was looking at two then that were still relatively lethal, because remember, this is a fate point spend, which makes things fairly bad news for Udo, but still gives him the chance of surviving. And the two really that I was left looking at were the punctured lung and the severed foot. Everything else above that was a bit too minor, in my opinion. And so I've gone with punctured lung. So Udo has a punctured lung. We're going to kind of ignore that it's the kind of healing time on that, and we're going to basically just say that he has a punctured lung. The bear has picked him up, and it's biting down on his kind of chest as it's carrying him away. He's still alive, though, and we can see that maybe he's kind of like, his arm is coming up and kind of like swatting, almost like in a delirium, if ineffectively, at the bear as he's kind of being carried away, almost to be like, oh no, leave me. And Yubi sees this. Yubi sees that Udo is still alive, and decides to is happy about that, is happy that the bear is not eating him, and realizes as a hunter that the bear is probably carrying Udo back to its lair. So she's planning on following the bear at a distance to follow it back to its lair and to see what happens. So I am now switching perspective from Udo to Yubi. Yubi is now my main character. Udo has effectively become an NPC until he gets picked up again, assuming he gets picked up. And to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to have Yubi stay at a distance. She's going to track the bear at a distance. And to do this, I'm going to roll a single stealth roll to see how well she does at keeping herself kind of sneakily following the bear, but also, making sure that she doesn't lose sight of it. If she fails that stealth roll, it's not going to be a typical stealth roll that's opposed by the bear's scouting. It's just a straight up stealth roll. If she fails this, what we're going to say is that the consequences are that the bear manages to slip away from her. She loses track of the bear. And then to find the bear's tracks again, she'll need to make a scouting roll to find the tracks. Both of these rolls, by the way, will be pushable, even though I have a house rule saying that long tasks that take a quarter day can't be pushed. I think in this instance, both the stealth roll and the scouting roll make sense to be pushable. So, before, I guess we'll do that first. No, yeah, we'll do that first, because there's like, if we come back and look at the overland map, we're in this hex here, and the bear is heading north, so we can kind of assume we're halfway into this hex, and we want to head north. So, the first thing to do, I guess, is to roll for Yubi's stealth, to see if she manages to keep track of the bear as it's going along. 2 successes. So she keeps sight of the bear. She does not lose sight of the bear, and she manages to keep track of it wherever it's going. She's staying far enough back. Again, remember, this is a single roll for tracking the bear overall. However, there's more to be done here. As Yubi moves into this next hex, this is technically a new hex. We have to roll to see if she manages to lead the way. And if we look here, there's a rule that says, hiking alone, if you journey alone in the Forbidden Lands, which Yubi is doing now, you may lead the way and keep watch at the same time. This is an exception to the rule that says that these 2 actions cannot be combined. So, lead the way is a survival roll, and keep watch is a scouting roll. Keep watch will only be rolled if there is an encounter in this hex that we need to roll on. I'm kind of tempted to say that there won't be an encounter in this text, but I've got an idea for this. So we are going to actually do it properly by the book, even though we're kind of in narrative land, like really deep into narrative land right now. So, first things first, she's going to roll survival to see if she manages to lead the way. She does not, so she has to roll for a mishap. So coming down here, we've got journeying mishaps. Click on that once, and this is for a lead the way mishap. Torn clothes. So in trying to keep up with the bear, maybe there's a patch of like briars or thistles or something that she has to kind of pass through, and she's trying to move stealthily, not be too loud, but at the same time not be too slow to get away, to keep the bear too far ahead of her. So she's maybe like, she wouldn't be like slashing this patch of briars or thistles out of the way. She'd be trying to, like, you know, move them a bit and kind of creep through them. And as a result, she's kind of ripped some of her clothes. Your boots break or your robe rips on thorny plants or sharp rocks. You must roll for the effects of cold. Your clothes can be mended by making a... I mean, I remember when this happened with our campaign, our full Forbidden Lands campaign. There was a trouser gate incident with this. So we'll figure out, I guess, now what's broken exactly. So if we look at her gear, I mean, there's nothing, she doesn't have like boots specifically or like a cloak or anything like that, but she does have clothes, and we'll say the clothes are torn. So she is now going to be suffering the effects of cold. You must roll for the effects of cold. So what does cold mean exactly? We're going to look that up because we haven't really come across this yet in the game. So we go over to conditions in the journal, and we have cold here. And it basically says that you have to roll endurance regularly to see if you withstand the effects of cold. You can have extra protection like a blanket, but she's not going to be wrapping the blanket around her at first. So the blanket is not going to be used at the moment. It'll be used while she's sleeping or trying to sleep, or if she's sat around a campfire, she'll wrap the blanket around her. So you immediately... So being cold has several effects. So yeah, I roll endurance first. If I fail the endurance roll, then this stuff starts happening, right? So she rolls endurance. It's only 3 dice. She succeeds, so she's okay. And just to bring it up again, it did say that you would roll it once per day. In the depth of winter, you might have to roll once every hour. Now, we are getting close to the winter. It's the 45th of Fallwane right now. And if we look at the calendar again, Fallwane has 46 days. So we have we have today and we have tomorrow, and then we're into the first month of winter. So being cold is a real thing right now. Once per day, I think we'll be okay with that, with it being the autumn. I think as we get into the first half of winter, we might say once per quarter day as we're into the winter month, and it'll be at the end of that month, the start of the following winter month, when we'll say you need to roll every hour, or very frequently. You would have to be rolling endurance if you're suffering from cold. Okay, so her clothes have been torn. Now we're going to see if there's an encounter in this hex. So we're going to once again ask I'm going to open this GM screen here. And it's this thing here that you probably can't read very well. The oracle to say, do I have a random encounter in this hex? And I rolled the 6 die, so I'm going to do that now. So that's the question to the oracle. Is there an encounter in this hex? There's a no but. Okay, and the no but result means you find loot. Roll on simple carried finds. So as we're crossing in, maybe there's another. Maybe the bear has actually killed somebody else and partially eaten them, but there's a backpack of theirs that's still kind of lying there, and the bear kind of crosses this path of this dead corpse. It happens to be a goblin because we're in goblin territory, we'll say. And so we're going to roll on the simple finds table to see, these are carried finds, to see what we had. And I guess everything in there was kind of damaged, but there was 23 copper pieces in there. So Yubi gets to add 23 copper to her gear. Okay. And that was the encounter. There's no need to roll the scouting for make a scouting roll for keeping watch, because there's no other encounter that she's come across here. She manages to keep track with the bear, and as she crosses into this next hex, we can see that there is a river here. And we're going to ask the oracle if the bear crosses the river. So if the oracle says no, then the bear is going to stay on this side of the river. If the oracle says yes, then the bear crosses over. And we can assume that there would be some sort of a ford nearby where the bear can kind of cross over without getting too deep. Because I'm assuming that would be how the bear kind of goes up and down through the forest. But if not, then the bear will have its lair here on this side of the river. So let's ask the oracle: does the bear cross the river? So one of the successes and the failures cancel each other out. We're left with a no but answer. No, the bear doesn't cross the river, but it places Udo on the ground, on the bank of the river, and has a drink, and then looks around and starts sniffing. So Yubi has to fall back and hide herself because she does not want to be spotted by this bear, and she does not want to be attacked. So I'm not sure if the bear has... Does the bear have a scouting stat? I'm going to look at the monsters. We're going to open the gray bear. I mean, scouting is a wits thing, but sometimes they have... Oh, it does have a scouting of 3. So we're going to roll the scouting of 3. There are no successes, so regardless of how Yubi needed to have rolled for her stealth, the bear would have needed to have had at least one success to have spotted her. It didn't, so I don't even need to roll for her stealth. She's able to kind of crouch down and stay out of sight while the bear is kind of sniffing around. However, she's so terrified that the bear might spot her and come and finish her off just like it finished off Udo, when her arrows seem to do nothing to it from her perspective. That she kind of lies as low as she can behind a bush or something. She can't actually see the bear, but it's making enough noise, like on the gravel of the riverbank, that she doesn't need to. She feels like she doesn't need to watch it. She's just listening to it moving around. By the way, I've been exclusively in third person perspective with Yubi for this entire episode. This is something that's actually been an issue quite often in this campaign, is that I switch from first to third person perspective quite often with Udo, and I've not even done first person at all with Yubi. In fact, it would feel a little bit off for me at the moment because this is the first time I've started playing with Yubi, and Udo was still alive, and Udo was always my main character. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about what you think with this perspective. Do you think third person works? Do you think first person is better? It's worth noting that for solo role-playing, that often people will journal, like a journaling solo game. There's no right or wrong way to do it. If you feel better doing it in third person, people often do that. They write in third person. People also write their journaling games in the first person. It's a little bit different when you're doing it this way, like I'm doing, because I'm effectively performing for an audience. And it can be a little bit more immersive for everyone when you stay in the first person. But at the same time, I think it also feels a little bit more natural for me to be in the third person. Maybe that's because I'm a GM. I GM so much that it's hard to step out of that GM perspective and to really immerse myself into my character as a player. But of course, in solo play, you are the GM as well as the player. So it's an interesting little dilemma here, and I'd love to hear some thoughts on what you, the listeners, or sorry, the listeners, if you're listening to this on a podcast, or the people watching on YouTube, what your thoughts are. So please get in touch on social media from the links in the description, or leave a comment below and let me know what your thoughts are on perspective. I'm going to continue just for the sake of simplicity, and just to so my brain doesn't kind of flipping over trying to switch to the correct perspective. I'm going to stay as I have been in the third person perspective, because it's a little bit easier for me. So Yubi stays down. This is the no but result, right? Yubi stays down. The bear does not suddenly let out a roar, come closer, or anything like that. And then eventually the sound kind of dies down a bit, and she peeks up, and the bear is gone. The bear has disappeared from view. So Yubi's gonna get up, and she's gonna have a little kind of poke around, and we're gonna give her another. We're gonna give her a scouting roll to see if she can find the tracks of the bear, to see which way it went. She assumes it didn't go across the river, because she would have heard splashing as it would have gone in. She didn't hear that. She did hear it kind of wandering around. So we're gonna We're opening Yubi's character sheet here. We're gonna roll for her scouting to see if she can track the bear. And I'm going to give her a positive modifier to this, because the bear was standing on the banks of a river. There's there's some gravelly, kind of pebbly bits on the shoreline, but there's also quite a bit of mud and sand and that sort of thing, where a big, huge bear, effectively a monster bear, would definitely leave a track. In fact, even in the pebbles a bit, this would be the case. So we're going to give her a +1 modifier for this roll. Wow. And I think she's going to push this. Okay, she gets a success, but she does take one wits damage. Whoops. 1 wits damage. She gets 1 willpower point as well, so she's up to 5 willpower points. But she takes the 1 wits damage from pushing, because she really wants to find Udo. And she does indeed manage to find a paw print, a massive bear paw print, a little bit further upstream. So upstream being, if we look at the flow of the water here, this is the ocean. Here are the mountains. So upstream is going off to the left here, off to the west. So yeah, I mean, we're staying in the hex. I'm not having the bear move much further than just 1 hex along. So we're kind of just there, and she sees up ahead a cave, and she's seen bear caves in the past. She's positive that this is the cave for this bear, because it's big. There's a bit of a smell emanating out of it, and she's not going to get too close to it to confirm this, because she thinks the bear's inside right now. So what she's going to do is she's going to go scurry up a tree, just like what Udo tried, where she's kind of in the forest, she's in the tree line a bit. In fact, she might go behind it, so to speak, so that when the bear comes out, the bear will be facing, it'll be facing away from her. So she's kind of behind the cave looking down. She'll see the bear if it comes out, but it would have to turn around to see her. So, because there's no pressure here on her to find a tree to climb up, I'm not going to make a roll for it. I'm just going to say that unlike with Udo, who had a finite period of time to climb the tree, she manages to find a tree, and she's got plenty of time to climb up it. So she's waiting in that tree. The clock progresses. We were here in the middle of the morning phase. Traveling into like through this hex. To get out of the hex would have taken us to noon, to the end of the morning phase, which basically is like 12 noon. And then looking around, like waiting for the bear, kind of, there we go, moving around, looking for its tracks, finding its tracks, tracking it to the cave, and then climbing up the trees, basically moving us halfway through the daytime phase. So we're now at like 3 p.m. So I want to put us there. Okay, and that's also what we've got here up on the calendar module. I've not yet rolled for this, but I think I will maybe roll a d12 just to see if the weather's changed for the day, because I haven't done this at all yet. We get an 8. So we're in fall wane. It moves down here, so it actually starts raining. Interesting. We get a little bit of rain. If we come across here to the legend, we've got light showers. So there's a light shower starting, which is going to be not pleasant. She's, Yubi's clothes have ripped a little bit as she was tracking the bear, and yeah, she's cold and it's starting to rain, and she's waiting for this bear. So the bear, we'll say that the bear stays in there for not for too long. So we're not going to actually advance this. We'll say just as Yubi has managed to get herself comfortable and the rain has started, the bear exits the cave. Yubi is very quiet. The bear does not seem to notice her. It wanders away from her, back the way it came, and then disappears southwards. I mean, she's to the south of the cave, so off to her right, it disappears into the tree line. And she assumes it's going back the way it came. Being a hunter herself, she would imagine that the bear is possibly going back to pursue its previous prey, maybe the 2 goblins that it attacked before. And she hopes that she might have a bit of time to find Udo, rescue him, see to any of his wounds to make sure that he doesn't die, and get him away from this cave. So that's what she's going to do. She gives it a good, let's say, a good half hour. She gets down from off of the from down the tree, and she creeps into the cave. She's not going to light a torch, even though actually she might light a torch, because I think she's got some. She doesn't have any torches, so she doesn't light a torch. In fact, goblins are nocturnal. They can see in the dark. So with the light coming in, it's still daytime. There's some light coming in through the mouth of the cave, and she can see that the cave is actually quite big and spacious. And there's a terrible smell in here, and the smell is the smell of death and decay. And she can see kind of in the dimness that there are bones, and there's kind of flesh, like decaying flesh, littered around the cave. And up against one of the walls on the side of the cave, she can see Udo lying, kind of just dropped in a heap. And she rushes over to him, and he's not conscious. He's out, but he's breathing. So this is where we need to do a healing roll to see if see how well Yubi can heal his punctured lung. Now, there's a couple of things to talk about here. If we look at her healing stat, she's got a 4 empathy but no healing, so she gets 4 dice to attempt this. She has no gear that's going to help her, but Udo's backpack is on him. Does he have anything that can help? Not really. Nothing at all, really. Assuming everything's in the backpack, of course. And so she's going to have to just make a straight healing roll to see if she can kind of stabilize the wound. And I think, being a hunter, she knows how wounds are made. She creates lots of wounds herself. So she's able to do some kind of rudimentary first aid, that sort of thing. But she's going to know from the nature of like blood coming out of his, there's kind of maybe bubbling a bit. So, because the lung has been punctured, that he's going to need some proper help. And she's going to need to take him to a village to see a proper healer fairly quickly. So she's really just trying to stabilize his injury. And I might do a little bit of house ruling here with the rules, but we're going to go over the rules as written first and just have a look at what they say. So when you've taken a critical injury, this is the section of the book on critical injuries with damage and recovery. healing them. So each critical injury has a specific effect that you suffer during the healing time indicated, measured in days. So if we look again at the wound that has been suffered, which is this slash wound, punctured lung, sorry. We have, it says lethal time limit D6 days, but the healing time is D6. So the healing time, 4 days. It's gonna take him 4 days to heal from this. And this is not this. There's a little bit more to this, right? Every single one of the injuries, apart from the first one, has a healing time with a number of d6 to roll, right? Some of them are permanent, and effectively, this is saying that it's going to take him 4 days to recover from his punctured lung, for him to heal from his punctured lung. If someone manages to heal Udo during the process of him healing it, that time will be reduced by half, so it will only take 2 days to heal from it. But it says an earlier roll to save your life does not count toward this. A new roll is required. And it's that roll to save his life that we need to look at here. And this, if we go up to death, it says here, if your critical injury is listed as lethal, someone must make a successful healing roll to save you. Otherwise, you die when the time indicated has passed. So, we're going to say Udo's not going to be able to, he's not healing himself, but there's only one roll that can be made, right? And it's saying otherwise you die in the time indicated that it's passed. So we're gonna do this like this, right? We're gonna roll first to see if Yubi manages to save, to stabilize the wound, and she can push this. So let's do that first. No successes. She's definitely gonna push that roll. It feels like every time I try and push, nothing ever. Very rarely ever goes well. Anyway, so she cannot stabilize this wound. Udo is going to die in a certain number of days. And it's D6 days, right? And I feel like maybe the 4, I'm going to retcon slightly the 4 that I rolled earlier, not say that the 4 is the healing time because he hasn't been healed. 4 is the number of days that he will die if he does not get seen to by somebody else. Somebody else has to try and heal him, and that's why Yubi is thinking that she needs to get him to a healer as quickly as possible. So she's gonna look around inside the cave and see if she's gonna need to carry Udo, but maybe she can make a makeshift litter that she can kind of drag. Unfortunately, she knows that doing this is going to potentially leave a scent trail that the bear will be able to follow. She will not be moving very fast, so it won't be long at all until the bear will find her. So we're going to start asking the Oracle some questions, and the first question we're going to ask the Oracle is, does Yubi know of a village along this river somewhere that she can take Udo to? And we're going to stack this a little bit and say it's likely, because she's a hunter, she's a goblin, she's in goblin territory. I think it's quite likely that she knows that that there is going to be, that there would be a village here. So it's not asking would she know? I guess the question is more like, is there a village along this river, upriver from here? And we're gonna make it likely. We're gonna add 1 success to whatever we roll. And we're going to roll the dice. Look at that. It's a wash, but there's a single 6 because I've made it into a likelihood. So yes, but yes, there is a village along this river, but maybe it's not particularly close to here. I think we'll go with that. We'll say it's 3 hexes away, like here. We'll say that there's a village on the southern bank. So just to make it a little easier with crossing. No, in fact, we'll say it's on the it's here where the fork of these rivers meet. Like in the fork, there's a river that's been set up, and a fairly sizable river. She knows that there's even a healer there, and it's a goblin village. So that's where she's going to be heading. But we're talking 4 hexes away, and she knows the only way this is going to be possible is if she can make a raft or a boat of some kind, and they can get upstream a little bit first before it gets dark, make camp on the north side of the river, so hopefully the gray bear won't find them. and camp. Otherwise, maybe she can just risk being tired and try and go up the river through the night and get there in the morning. So she needs to fairly quickly make a raft. And I'm gonna say that the attempt to heal, like with finding him, trying to heal him up, and all the rest of it is taken the rest of this quarter day. So we're moving to kind of dusk now, and it's 6 p.m. So we're through. It's dusk, and Yubi is going to spend a quarter day crafting to make a raft. She's taken the axe from Udo, and she's using it to basically fashion a raft as quickly as she can. And we're gonna roll. We're gonna have her roll a crafting roll with 3 dice. And just to move the story along, I think because she's a hunter, she can make some sort of raft. But if she fails this roll, then the raft is going to be shoddy quality. There's definitely going to be some potential for mishaps. It's going to take them longer to get across, etc. A success means she makes one fairly decently, and more than one success means she makes quite a good raft that's going to keep them dry, etc. In fact, we could even say if she fails it, she only makes a raft that's going to be good enough to get them both across the river, and then it's going to kind of fall apart. But she can maybe salvage some of the materials that she's using to build another one the following day. So I think because there's bones and things that can be used, and probably lots of clothing that's been ripped apart inside the cave, she's got quite a bit of supplies at her disposal. So I'm going to make this a little bit easier. I'm going to give her a +1 to her crafting roll. And she fails. I'm not going to push this roll, because she's going to have to do this again. And I'm going to stick with what I'd said. So she manages to make something in the full quarter day. The bear does not come back in this time. It's now midnight. And we get into the night phase, and we're going to travel into the next hex, I think. So she manages to take Udo on this raft, goes upstream. We're going to say 1 hex here. And because we're in a new hex, we're going to roll Lead the Way, which is a survival roll. And in fact, there might be some modifiers on this. In fact, you know what? I think we might stop because we've kind of run out of time. We'll do the rest of this. We'll do the rest of this in the next episode. I think what it's kind of a nice place to leave this is that, you know, it's midnight now. Yubi has made a makeshift raft, which he's pretty sure will get a short way upstream across the river before it's going to fall apart. It's probably going to get them both wet, and then she has to make camp because she's going to need to make another raft, or she's going to try and have to improve this raft, and she's going to be getting tired. In fact, I'm just going to tick for her right now that she's tired, sleepy, I should say. Udo is sleeping like a log, so we can clear his sleepy condition. Not that he's in any kind of good shape. And Udo was injured on the 45th. On the 45th, right? So that means if we look at the calendar, Udo is going to die if he doesn't get healed. He's going to die on the 40. He's got 1 day to the 46th, 2nd day to the 1st, 2nd, and then 3rd. So by the morning, we'll say by sort of noon of the 3rd, if he hasn't been seen to, he's going to have died. So I'm just going to write that here in the journal. I'm going to create an entry. Okay. So I'm going to leave it there. We're gonna see what happens with trying to get Udo to the safety of this village in our next episode. And there will probably be a little bit of downtime at this. Well, we'll see what happens in the village, because there could be all sorts of things happening in the village. I've got some cool village generators that have all sorts of things that could be happening with them. And I'll add also a village icon to the map, because we've basically confirmed that there is going to be a village here, a goblin village. I might change the location of it slightly. I'm going to double check in the book on where all the various kin are. because it could be that this stretch here, I think, might be Wolfkin territory. So it might make more sense to have the goblin village on the goblin side of the river. And if that's the case, then I'll put it would just be the 3 hexes away here and not 4 in that one. Anyway, it'll be there for the next episode, and that's where we're going to leave it. So thank you very much for watching. If you want to reach out to me on social media, you can find the little ticker here below, all of the social media links. They're also in the description of the video or the podcast if you're listening to this. And if you, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I respond to all the comments that are left on YouTube. And otherwise, see you next time. Thanks very much, and catch you then.